Königssee in Bavaria, the oldest artificial ice track on the planet. Since 1969, they've been sliding down these 17 curves just above Königssee, outside the small town of Viesturs. Welcome back to Königssee, everybody. Martin Haven, and delighted to have alongside me again this weekend Anne van Nieuwenhuis, who's just matched her personal best ever on this track. It's a great racetrack for drivers, Anne. There's just so many opportunities to make a mistake, though.
Absolutely. It's a very technical track, but also a very fun track to drive. It has a big drop from the start on. So start deficits you can make up quite easily because it's so steep here in the start, like we can see. It's quite long run up until curve 1, Teufelsmühle, so the devil's mouth they call it. It's very tricky this year with a lot of ice in the build-up. But then you come out of curve 1 and go into the S curves, the Schlangengrube, where you want to get a lot of height so you can take as much speed as you can diving out. And then out of S4 you come into the bendaway. It's not really a straightaway. Most of the drivers take the 2 mandatory taps before going into Jenner and then going into the 360 Kreisel here. It's been very tricky this season to get this Kreisel right, and then the chicanes get even trickier if you don't get the exit right into Kielstein, and then the long left-hand curve, Echo Wand, and then you go uphill, so it's very important to stay straight and in the middle of the track, not make mistakes there in the finish curve, and a long, flat finish stretch there.
Nice and safe.
Oh, yeah.
No dramas there.
Not like Eagles.
All the drama is before the line. And as we said before, you know, it was built for sleds in 69, which are going, I don't know, maybe half the speed they're going now. Well, we have a big field of sleds as well. 25 sleds. Rudy Rinaldi has had to withdraw from the field. But Francesco Friedrich, our reigning World Cup champion after last year's perfect two-man season, 8 wins from 8, has won 3 of our 4 two-man races so far. 2 in Lake Placid, he won in La Plana and Innsbruck as well. And the reason we're playing catch-up with the two-man compared to the 4-man and the women's races is it'll be double two-man weekend in Sigulda about 3 weeks from now. And Francesco Friedrich might slightly have misfired with only a silver in the first race in Lake Placid, but boy, he's still the guy everybody looks to try and figure out who to beat, right?
Definitely, and this track again, he's going to have a very strong start. Wasn't starting very fast on the last training day, just like he likes to do, but he knows how to drive it. It's not his home track, that's Altenburg, but he's very good at this track as well. They have plenty of training time here in the pre-season, so I'm thinking he's going to be really good.
He's going to be tough to beat anywhere, isn't he? You could build one on Mars or the new one in Beijing. I'm sure he'll be good. So we'll kick off with Ryo Shinohara of Japan and a World Cup debutant again from Italy. I don't know how many more young sliders we're going to see this season. Mattia Variola. We'll work our way through the top of the World Cup leaderboard, including last year's winner Francesco Friedrich, and we will have 25 sleds rounded out by Drazen Cilic of Croatia. Race 5 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. We're in Königssee, Bavaria. Martin Haven and Anne van Nieuwenhuis fresh from a fantastic race in the women's competition as we get ready for our first sled on ice. Japan's Ryo Shinohara with Yoshiki Kaneko, his young brakeman. Only the 3rd World Cup start for Shinohara. Raced in Europe last year, so he has got knowledge of this track. And he started his World Cup campaign in two-man in La Plana, and then last week in Innsbruck as well.
Yeah, he also has a European coach with Hartel St. Johanser, so he knows these tracks pretty well.
And there's a few of the German sliders here, former German sliders, who are helping out with coaching as well, the likes of Sandra Kroll and so on, so lots of knowledge being brought back in. 5:03 getaway.
And a good entrance into the curve 1.
Now, it didn't look quite as skiddy for the women's bobsleigh as it did for the skeleton this morning, or yesterday rather. So how does the track compare, do you think, to when you were training?
It was a little bit colder during training. It was also sunny, so it felt very crisp. Ooh, high wave there in the second wave in Kreisel. And falls out of the... Ooh, and that's a bumpy. Yeah, it didn't have enough pressure to make him come into the chicanes with the right angle. Yeah, the ice is a little bit softer today, I think, so it's easier to control, but it's been fast all week, actually.
Yeah. Well, after 51 years, they know how to make the ice on this track, don't they? So this is always, it's always close, tight racing. It's a real driver's paradise, not a push starter's sprint track, and the ice conditions are never less than excited, and so the crowd as well. We always get a good crowd here. You can see why, can't you? Look while they're watching.
Yeah, and here he takes a tap and starts skidding. Just gets the last step before going into Kreisel. And here you can see he overdrove his first wave, driving himself into the dip between the first and second wave, and that's why he gets up so high in the second wave, and then falls out and taps the inside wall there of the chicane, which makes him late into the first chicane, and then hits and jumps up into Kielstein.
Anytime you're landing hard and digging up the ice, you're slowing the sled down. Well, our first World Cup start for Mattia Variola as a driver. This former brakeman started driving last year. 9 two-man World Cups and 8 four-man starts as a brakeman. He's got Konstantino Ugi behind him.
4.99.
You see, it's a big deal, not only with the men, but also with the women. If you can find a strong brakeman who can drive, that's the ideal combination.
Yeah, and then it's just about getting experience and learning, but he's took a lower line in S3, and that what made his transition S3, S4 very tricky. Nice parallel taps there going into the Kreisel.
Only second season driving, and there's another former brakeman coming up later in the heats that we'll see as well. That's a good exit.
Great control into Kreisel, a little bit of a flat line, but give him a good exit and good chicanes.
And look at the speed, Ryo Shinohara, 1:18.9, but he gets a good exit, keeping that momentum. This is going to be very close with the Japanese. And at the line, 100th back. Well, the first task for Mattia Variola in a field of 25 is going to be to try and make the top 20. So that was a pretty looking run. I mean, a couple of mistakes, but below the Kreisel, he kept the speed.
Definitely. Very good control in Kreisel. You can see first wave, good control, released at the right time, controls the second wave, and then doesn't let it climb too high in the third wave, which gave him a good exit early into the first chicane. That's right what you want, so you can turn it early and get early into the second chicane. A little sideways slip there, but no hits or airborne time. So very good job for him.
So there is Mattia Variola, our latest recruit to World Cup bobsleigh driving. Well, next up, a man with 15 World Cup starts today. This is Sukyoon Jin of Korea. His first 6 races were as a brakeman, and he's got Ki-kun Jang behind him in his 9th World Cup start. And for Jang, actually, this is a big milestone for him. The giant on the back. This is his 40th two-man race. I can't believe they ever got him in once, never mind 40 times.
Wow. 5:02, and just avoids the inside wall coming out of curve 1. Good height there in S1. And smooth-looking lines in the S2, S3 combination. But gets too much pressure coming out of S4, and that's why he has those tiny skids in the bend away. Very nice control there.
Yeah, fastest speed so far into the Kreisel as well.
Great looking chicane. Nice height in Kielstein.
Speed at the bottom, 120.5, little waver starting to climb up the hill though. As you say, that is an awful lot steeper when you're walking alongside the track than it looks from the cameras.
Exactly, and just overdrove the exit of the Echo 1 a little bit and then got late into the next curve.
Now Yoon-Jin Suk, 5:02 getaway. Start record here is 4:77. We haven't had a start record broken, but we had a new women's skeleton track record yesterday.
And the exit of curve S4 into the bend away. And you can see him skidding away, and then again trying to avoid the tap in the first bend. And the exit of Kreisel, very nice looking chicane. Gets it early around. A little bit sideways slip, just like we saw the Italian do before. And a little bit too abrupt in his steer out of Echo 1, hitting the left wall going into the next one.
most of the time it looks too narrow down there for a two-man sled, but watch this guy, he'll make it look like an autobahn. Francesco Friedrich, 61st World Cup start in two-man for him, and last year's race winner.
487. That is gonna be a mark to watch for the rest of the guys.
Well, Friedrich's won the last 3 straight here, including the 2017 Worlds. That's 3 of his 4 gold medals on this track.
Just hits a little bit there. Takes the 2 mandatory taps before going into Janet. Great speed going into Kreisel, 113.6. And that's as good as it gets. Wow. Great exit out of Kreisel.
Makes it look so wide, doesn't he?
And very high speed at and a perfect exit of Echo 1 as well.
122.1, he's been following your lines down the track. 49.27. A 48.94 is the track record. Probably too warm today to see that broken. And that track record for Francesco Friedrich and Torsten Margis set as they won the World Championships in February 2017. They took
Coming out of S4 here, just taking the tap, but he controls it straight away. Takes a tiny bump there, and then takes the 2 mandatory taps on the right side and the left side before going into Janet. Coming out of Kreisel early onto the first chicane, and then he has all the time to just slide it through. Taps and a little sideways there.
He knew the line was good, not even a flinch on the steering. Next up, Roman Heinrich and Dorian Otterville. Big race for them here. Last year, they finished just out of the medals in 4th place. Now, that would reignite his season. He's 7th in World Cup standings, but hasn't been in the top 5 all season. He was 6th last weekend in Innsbruck. Let's see what they can produce. DJ as ever, playing a little bit of suitable music when the sled is at the top.
.496, second fastest we've seen today so far, and a good exit there out of curve 1.
It's a short start here, isn't it? You can't run it long down to the first corner like last week.
Definitely not. Oh, just taps and skids all the way. Oh, that's gonna rob him of a lot of speed.
111, that's probably the 2nd fastest sled though into the Kreisel.
And a little bit of a wavy line, but good exit there. A little hit and jump going into Kielstein.
Well, 2nd place at the moment, Yunjin Suk, 77 hundredths behind at the line.
Dives it off of Echo 1, very long on the next one, and gets the early entrance that pushed him away a little bit. 49.97, just in front of the Korean sled by 700ths.
That's a lot further back than he was hoping for,
and he's not pleased with that.
Exit off S4. That's the first real minefield here, isn't it?
Yeah, if you don't get that right, it takes you of so much time and so much speed, and then you're very mad at yourself as a driver. Just hits and then goes into a very long skid.
And it doesn't tap on the wall to straighten it up. It just keeps skidding. He's waiting.
That's about as sideways as you can get without taking the tap.
He's just waiting for it to come back, and it never does. Very frustrated, Roman Heinrich. Lying in 2nd at the moment, but that's probably not even good enough for a top 10 run. He might need a big 2nd heat. 5 down, Francesco Friedrich leads from Roman Heinrich and Suk In-jun. Race 5, the BMW IBSF 2-man bobsleigh World Cup. Oskar Skiebermanis this week has been running with the sled rather than sitting in, which is blessed relief for brakeman Mattis Miknis. How much speed Skiebermanis has got? Well, that actually looks like a proper start, so let's see.
It wasn't looking as powerful as I'm used to seeing from him. 497, that's a little bit, that's a tenth off what Francesco pushed with Torsten, so they should be, it ain't bad, but in normal circumstances, I think they would be closer to what the German 1 team pushed.
driving around that first tap, and again, that worked for you, worked for Kaylee. It's a good way of negotiating if you can.
Definitely. If you can manage to get some pressure out of the exit of S4, you can drive it around that first bend and only take the 2 mandatory taps before going into the Kreisel.
Nice run through the lower labyrinth as well, but 3/10 down already. Good speed at the bottom, very good speed at the bottom. How close will he be? Nearly 4/10 back at the line. That still could be a big margin for other sleds to slip into.
But considering their start deficit, this is a very good run.
Yeah. 10th back at the start, and 3900s back at the bottom. As ever, the crazy Latvian fans are here. Martis Duko's words, not mine.
It has a very efficient load.
I mean, that's one thing. I have no idea how many hours a year Latvian teams spend loading into sleds, but it looks like it's all they ever do.
Well, they have an iced push track in Sigulda at the bottom of the bob track, so I'm betting they're spending a lot of their off-season in there.
Kibaman is pretty happy with that. Ties his shoelaces up. Next up, Hunter Church of the USA. His teammate Kaylee Humphries just won gold in the women's race from 3rd in a top 6 that was covered by 1500ths of a second with just 2 ties. So what can he do? First time he's ever seen Germany, Bavaria, well, not Germany, but Bavaria certainly. We're not in Germany, we're in Bavaria, and never been to Königssee before. And then, you know, think back to when you first drove here, there's a lot to take in, right?
It is very technical. The rhythm of the S-curves and the Kreisel to get it under control, the exits putting you into the chicanes, and then the free-flowing curves at the bottom of the track. It's all very different, all very technical, so it's a lot to take in.
Little low line there, short-cutting Teufelsmühle. Not sure we've seen that before, but he is in such good form, mentally and physically.
Good exit there, just tiny tap before that first bend. And good speed coming into Kreisel. Nice wavy control, uses the waves, doesn't let it get too high. A little jumpy there.
It's another good run from Hunter Church. 6 fastest at the start. He's driving himself up towards the top
exit.
3. Speed is very good as well. Behind Kibermanis by 2900ths. That could well be a top 6 run. 200s ahead of Roman Heinrich of France. And again, you know, Eagles is a little bit of an open book, but here, 16 corners, all waiting to catch you out. Well, he's having plenty of fun this season.
Coming out of S4, a little bit too much on the right side, takes a tiny tap before the first bend. And then here the exit of Kreisel. Gets over into the first chicane nicely, but he's a little bit too long on there, and that's why he takes a tap in the second chicane, and he gets a lot of airborne time going into Kielstein, but good height there.
Yeah, I don't know the energy it takes to heft Carl Wilcox out of the seat, but that's how much...
Still learning.
Yes, and learning fast. Dominik Dvorak of the Czech Republic, brand new sled, not just a brand new sled to him, a brand new design. This is the new 2-man Valna. Now, he was comparing and contrasting with his regular BTC, and he has decided to race this. He's had 4 trips ever in this sled, says it drives very different from the BTC, but Hannes Valna was saying that he's trying to adjust the steering to make it a little bit more relaxed, so it's closer to the BTC field.
Okay.
So this is absolutely brand new, the first ever 495. Again, not much wrong with their starting.
But only 7th highest exit speed, considering that start. It should have been a little bit higher, I think.
Well, let's see where his reflexes get him to. Drives around the first bend away.
Great exit there. Takes 3 taps, but all nice and straight. Good speed going into Kreisel. Good control of the waving. Early entrance into the chicanes. A little jump there, but nothing major.
If he doesn't wreck it here, the great test for this sled will be St. Moritz next week, where we get the highest speeds on any track, barring Whistler. 121.3, good speed at the line, third at the line, 4200s back, 300s behind Oscar's Kiebermanis. So that's a comparison between a brand new drive in this Valna and a man who understands his BTC intimately. That's very promising. No wonder he wanted to drive this sled.
That's a good drive.
And Hannes Valna saying it's overweight. So they built the cowl once and strong. The next cowl will be lighter and the weight will be lower.
Well, I'm driving the original BTC, which had a very heavy, strong cowling as well. I'm not sure it's bad. I think it makes the sled more robust.
Yeah.
And here you can see him coming out with a little bit too much pressure and taking that hit out of Echo 1 in the uphill section. That might be the 300s that he's behind Kiebermanis.
Yeah. Entertaining stuff. Next up, Michael Vogt and Cyril Bieri for Switzerland. One of two Swiss sleds again in the World Cup. Vogt, 22 years old, in his 12th World Cup race. This is season 3 of driving bobsleds for him. World Cup best, bronze in La Plagne.
And Cyril wasn't here for training. He just flew in this morning or yesterday. But 493, it's a great start.
Yeah.
They got great starts last week in Eagles as well in this combination, so very good job there.
Yeah, Cyril working hard back at home.
Good looking exit, tiny drift, takes a tap in the bend, and then just avoids the two taps before going into the Kreisel.
1700s back, 112.4, that's very decent speed.
The Kielstein, great height there.
Still in second.
A lower line there.
Yeah, he likes to make his own way down, doesn't he? Not afraid to try different things at the line. Again, he's going with the Anne van Nieuwenhuis patented head duck. Do you get like €1 every time somebody else does that?
I should trademark it and get €1 every time.
You were probably €20 better off during the women's race. Yeah, so Michael Vogt, 4th place. Last year in this race, 15th.
Wow.
And that was his first World Cup season. You know, this is now year 3 of driving sleds. His progress has been epic.
And here you see the exit of S4. Takes those taps there, but then avoids the tap on the right and the left side. And here the exit out of Kreisel. Early onto the first chicane, and then you can drive it off early. A little bit long on the second chicane. And you can see Cyril being lifted from the sled just a tiny bit.
We still got a lot of good sleds, but 3rd and 4th, Dvorak and Vogt, were 14th and 15th last year. Now here's a man who has won on this track and has also barely made the cut. Last year, I think he was within a couple of hundreds of not making the cut here, having won here back in 2015-16, the year that he was the World Cup champion. So Yun Jong-won's two-man driving up and down like the Assyrian Empire over the last few seasons, and this year hasn't been that great. Best result, 6th place in race 2 in Lake Placid.
493, very good getaway, just as the Swiss sled we saw before.
Well, but only again 6th highest momentum from what was equaling the 2nd fastest start.
Good height there. And that looks like a very clean exit. Just takes a tap and starts drifting there.
First commentator's curse of the afternoon. Oh, and big height as well, just drifting away from him in that second pressure.
Good looking chicane though.
Yep. 118. 122.3 is the fastest of all from Kiebermanis, little late.
A lot of pressure there coming out of Echo 1.
Oh, is he going to be top 5? 5th at the line, ahead of Hunter Church, but behind Michael Vogt by a 10th. Well, last year Michael Vogt was 15th and Yun Jong-won 20th. And Jong-won normally shows really good at that velocity through the start gate, but just wasn't good today.
Yeah, this is a short push track, so it's a little different than what we're used to. And here you can see the taps and skids in the bend away. And then driving the first wave a little bit too long. but controls the second wave. Good exit there. A little bit high, but not jumping as high as we've seen some other sleds do going into Kielstein.
Well, critically for him, ahead of teammate Sukyun Jin, so that's where he needs to be. 10 sleds down, Francesco Friedrich, the race leader. Entertaining group behind, though. Race 5 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup in Berchtesgaden, Bavaria. Richard Olsner and Tobias Schneider, the Europa Cup champion, rather. Olsner, and the reigning junior world champion, won that title here last February.
493 as well, and very good exit speed, only 0.2 kilometers per hour of Francesco Friedrich's exit speed there. Great height in S2.
2- and 4-man junior world champion for the 3rd year, Richard Olsner.
Very nice line out of S4 in the bend away.
Only 1200s behind Friedrich. That's a great run so far.
A little wavy, but nice early entrance into the chicanes. Very clean chicane.
Again, he makes it look like an autobahn down the bottom here.
Now you can see they had a lot of training on this track and they know how to drive it.
Good run from Richard Olsner into second place, 49.54.
Very good job from Richard.
Silver and bronze for Germany in the women's race. Laura Nolte again racking up the medals with silver, her 4th World Cup, her 4th medal. Stephanie Schneider, bronze here for the 3rd successive season.
Very impressive work of the whole German team.
Yeah, just the gold escaped them.
And here in Kreisel, you can see he's allowing some of the waves, but just controlling it enough. And comes from a great spot out of the exit there, early into the first chicane, and then he has all the time to turn it and go early into the second one and turn it before going into Kielstein.
Yeah, within millimeters the same line that Francesco Friedrich had, and that's where the speed comes from. So Richard Olsner at the back of the sled, clearing the ice off. Next up is our 3rd former winner in the field, Justin Cripps, a one-time winner here. That was back in 2013-14, leading into the Olympic Games in Sochi.
And he really likes to drive this track.
60th race in two-man as a driver, 64 starts in total. With Cam Stones back on the sled behind him, they're alternating the two-man brake starters. That depends to a degree on fitness, but also on the nature of that start ramp.
Definitely. With this steep, short start, you need someone with high speed. Oh, but just tapped before going into the Teufelsmühle. 489, but that robbed him of some exit speed there.
And that is the first time we've seen a sled hit that wall all day. There was a lot of it in the skeleton race yesterday.
And great exit there coming out of S4. He's been experimenting without taking the taps, and he nailed it again. He did it in training, just takes 1 tap at the camera and then avoids the 2 taps before going into the Kreisel.
113.2 using the skeleton lines. Good speed from him. And this is him aiming for a top 3 run. 2nd fastest start. That's a great exit as well.
Very good lines at the bottom of the track.
3rd at the line, 3rd it is, 2900s back, 200s behind Olsner. Todd Hayes and Lyndon Rush applauding. I know Lyndon has won on this track. He won the year before. Justin, his last victory here. Todd Hayes, I'm trying to remember if he won here in two-man or not.
And Lyndon Rush, after the first track walk this week, he came into the dressing room and he said to his drivers, I'm so jealous I can't drive this track. The ice looks amazing.
Yeah.
He just wanted to get into a sled as well.
And it is. There are some places that drivers never tire of coming to, and I think this is definitely one.
And here you can see he doesn't have his hands on the steering rings before getting out of the grooves. And here, early into the first chicane, it stays a little bit long and then takes the wall there. But no big jump going into Kielstein. Just checking his own weight.
Yep. Well, the weight of the athletes and the sled is all about getting to the maximum limit. Next up, Brad Hall of Great Britain. 23rd World Cup start for Brad. Last year, 9th equal, and fresh off driving to a silver medal in Innsbruck last week. If anyone in this field is full of excitement for this track, it's got to be these two, Brad Hall and Greg Cackett.
492. That's a great start, and second highest exit speed coming out of Teufelsmühle.
They've been really good at that, converting that speed and carrying it into the track.
Well, they've been pushing a very heavy sled, but on this short, steep start, it's actually like the sled takes the speed as well, because the weight is just accelerating it. So it isn't as bad as in Altenburg or La Planche, where you have a long flat start pushing a heavy sled.
Third fastest start, he's in fourth at the moment on the splits. Let's see what speed he's got as he comes through the final couple of corners. Nice exit. 121.8, third fastest. How close at the line is he? He is 600s behind Justin Cripps in the battles for the medals. And you just saw on the left of the shot there, Sean Olsen, the Olympic bronze medalist in four-man from Nagano 98. Britain, until about a month ago, Britain's last Olympic medal in four-man. That has been rectified with bronze for John Jackson's crew. A good load. Greg still with that sore back, wrenched his lower back in Eagles in the first push.
Good transition coming out of Kreisel into the first chicane. Drives it nicely around to first chicane. Just a little bit sideways there going into Kielstein, but that's as good as line as we've seen from anybody.
Next up for Russia is Alexei Stulnev. 40th World Cup start in two-man for Alexei. World Cup best, a pair of fourth places. Hasn't been in amongst the medals in the two-man. Ruslan Samatov again changing up the brakemen, keeping everybody race fit and healthy. Maybe it's just that he's the only one who hasn't got the dreaded lurgy that half the Russian team has got.
Yeah.
Great load again from Stulnev, in like there's a trapdoor in the sled. 5:03 though. And Stulnev,
bobble of the head there.
Yeah, repositioning himself. He obviously was slightly up on his seat back and just dropping himself back into the sled.
Not really high in the S-curves, and that's a lot of tapping, but at least he's not sideways in the bend away.
112.7, kilometre an hour down.
High first wave and better control of his second wave. Good exit there. That's looking very clean in the chicanes.
And that helps keep the speed on board. Speed at the bottom, 122.3 from Kibermanis, 121.3.
Nice exit of the Echo 1 as well, carrying the speed.
Well, 9th at the line, overhauls Hunter Church by 200ths of a second. So Stulnev with 36 more World Cup starts in two-man, using that to find 200ths over Hunter Church.
And here coming out of curve 1, and you can see bobble his head, reposition, going into S1. And here the bend. Taps, a little skid, taps again, and then takes the last final 2 taps. 12th fastest start, 9th at the finish line.
Yeah, decent
That's
drive.
not a bad drive.
For Latvia, Ralfs Bērziņš started his World Cup career in Sigulda last year, his home track. Great opportunity for him to make an impression, and he did. 2 7th places there are still his career high results in two-man. See the Chinese girls who were racing earlier down in the grandstands with the fans. I think an awful lot of athletes are staying here. In fact, Anne came down from the top of the track into the booth so quickly she didn't even get any lunch. So, and for an athlete, that's like having a leg sawn off. Yeah, it is. 11th World Cup start then. Let's see what he can produce here.
492, great getaway.
Yeah.
They've been starting really impressive in Eagles as well. 57.0 exit speed coming out of Teufelsmühle. Good looking height there in S2. Good high S3. A little early onto S4, but controls it. Great exit there. Drives it around the bend, takes 3 taps, but nice and parallel going into Kreisel. Good control of the waves there. Very nice exit. very clean line so far.
Yeah, he's got the feel, hasn't he? Bergins, how close will he be to the top speed of teammate Keeper Manis? 2Ks away, so he'll be hanging around with Heinrich and Suk. No, 9th of the line, ties with Stulnev. That speed at the bottom was enough to push him up.
Very clean looking run, very nice drive. Didn't have the highest speed, but he just cleaned it up very nicely.
Yeah. What you've got to keep, haven't you, coming off Echo?
Good control of his first wave in Kreisel. Nice second wave as well. He stays long with Kreisel, gets early into the first chicane, and then you have the time to turn it. Takes a little bump there in the second chicane.
See, in slow-mo, it looks like there's time to turn it. In real life, it just really doesn't look, you just come out and just hang on.
It is very tight, and this week the ice has been really high, like it's very steep, the way the chicane is built. So it's been tricky. Some drivers crashed this week on training. It's definitely not like Europa Cup ice earlier this season when we were here in December. So it takes a little bit of adjusting.
Come on, Louis, go, 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 go!
Race 5, two-man bobsleigh World Cup in Königssee, Bavaria. Next up for China, Xiao Yijun, the gold medal winner in the National Games of China a couple of weeks ago in two-man. 5th World Cup start for him. Like his teammates, starting this year in the World Cup.
5:03.
Decent speed, that's as quick a getaway as Alexei Stulnev, who's in 9th.
Nice exit out of curve 1. Good height there in S2. A little bit long high on S3. Takes just a tiny tap coming out of S4, and there taps and skids. Doesn't look very in control there.
He almost got away with that first tap off S4, but then it broke into a skid, and
that's a good exit. Just a tiny tap before going into Kielstein.
I tell you what, he's out driving his start. 13th at the start, he's up to 11th. Has he got the speed to hang on? 9th fastest sled will be the top 12 at the line. Wow. 49.97 run.
Ties with Romain Heinrich from France. Very good job out of that start.
So Xiao Yijun in 12th place, the second tie in the top 12.
And they were here for Europa Cup as well at the end of December, so they have a little bit of track knowledge from then. And here coming out of S4, a little bit too sharp, and then just takes a tiny tap. Looked like he was in control, tries to drive it around the bend, and then taps and breaks into a skid, taps again, and then a big skid.
Coach Pierre Luders won the World Championship here in two-man. His coach then, Gert Grimmer, said that if Pierre took gold, he'd jump in the lake. I don't think the Chinese are going to be able to get Pierre to make a foolish bet like that, but it's worth a try. Well, next up, our second debutant this weekend, again as a driver. He's raced as a brakeman, started driving last year, Switzerland's Simon Friedrich. Brand new brakeman behind him, Gregory Jones. Not the most Swiss name I've ever heard. He said, yes, it is. Really? Anyway, 492 start, and that's again breaker on the front handles. Yeah.
He was a very successful brakeman, and he's pushing very strongly. His driving is improving a lot quickly as well, so he's doing a very good job. Great exit there. Wow.
Looks like he's been doing it all his life, doesn't he?
Well, they had a lot of training weeks, did Europa Cup, so this track is not new to him. They had their selection races here in the beginning of season as well. Oh, little tap there going into Kielstein, but that's a great looking run, great speeds. Driving a BTC sled as well. Good exit there of Echo 1, and he's gonna be high up the ranking.
That's ridiculous.
Great run from Simon Friedrich. Wow. And beat his teammate by 200.
Come on, Wooly, man, that deserves more than just a gentle thumbs up. 49.69, 6th position from Simon Friedrich on his World Cup debut.
He was in Sigulda last week, won the Europa Cup race there in front of Oscar Smelbardis, was second in the second Europa Cup race there. So he's doing a great job. Good push, good drive.
Talking to him earlier in the week, and he was saying last 2 or 3 seasons after the World Cup and the World Championships, he'd have a couple of weeks on ice just seeing if he really thought he had it. And then last year they committed fully and he started driving for real.
A little bit long there on the first chicane, and that's why he takes a tap and has a little bit airborne action before going into Kielstein, but that's a very good looking run.
Well, we're a bit presumptive with this. It ain't going to happen today, but the last Swiss winner, Beat Hefty, in 2014-15. We've been waiting for the new Swiss winner. We might have 2 by this time next year. What about Romania? We had a good race from Andrew Grecu in the women's competition. Mihai Tentea, incredibly making only his 2nd World Cup start, because we met him first in 2017 at the World Championships here. He did Junior Worlds as well in February. He's raced here in Europa Cup. It's only his 2nd 2-man World Cup, but he was training well.
5:01. That's a good getaway. Nice entrance there into Teufelsmühle. Good looking straightaway, 5th fastest speed, only out of the 13th fastest start.
Saw his former teammate Maria Konstantin earlier wearing a German jacket. She's now sliding Europa Cup for Germany.
Good looking straightaway as well.
13th at the start, up to 12th position.
Very nice control in Kreisel. Early entrance into the chicane. It's looking very smooth so far. A little bit early there out of Kielstein.
Romania, another one of those nations that does more with less.
Good speed.
To 9th, 5th fastest speed.
Wow.
Wow, across the line in 9th place. 49.74 slide. That is impressive. That's what he was doing in training.
13th fastest start, 9th at the finish line.
Yeah.
Great drive.
21 years old. He's got another 4 years of competing in Junior Worlds as well.
Well, it's a good drive, but it's also props to the brakeman to give him such good exit speed. Out of a little bit slower start, if you can take the speed anyway, then you have all the track to catch up people. It's really impressive stuff from the Romanian team.
Mihai Tentea, good hands, good exit there as well.
Great looking exit there in the chicanes. Turns it early. Just a little bump there, but very clean line into Kielstein.
Paint that sled yellow. You could easily be looking at the German line. There is Mihai Tentea, brakeman Cyprian Darocci. So next up, an actual German. This is Nico Walter, last year in 5th position in this race. This is his 41st 2-man World Cup start now. 2 wins, 7 podiums, and the World Championship bronze medal in Whistler last February.
He lost a bet to Francesco Friedrich in training. He said he was going to try to get through this straightaway to the bendaway without tapping and without skidding. Didn't make it, so I'm wondering if he'll try it again today, or if he'll just take the normal taps like everyone is doing.
Well, every time that Hansi Lochner loses a bet, it involves onesies at some stage. Let's more comedy heads. He's trying to drive it around.
Very straight there. Takes a tap. He's going for the normal mandatory taps.
Well, now it's not about the bet. Now he wants to win the race.
Speed.
10th fastest start, up to 8th already.
Very nice exit. Oh, wow. This is as smooth as we've seen from anybody.
All right, good speed. Keeper managed the fastest at the bottom. What's Nico Walter got? Really good. Top 3 at the line, maybe. Right with Justin Cripps, 2 ahead of Justin Cripps, tied with Richard Olsner. So Germany first, second, and second. They got 3 in the top 2.
You know, 10th fastest start and second at the finish line. That's a great drive.
And don't forget, he's a 4-man driver.
His brakeman hit him in the back with the spikes.
Yep.
And here in Kreisel, gentle waving, good control of those waves. And then long on the exit, it crosses you over to an early entrance into the chicanes, and it's just very smooth chicane. Nice height in Kielstein. Very good one.
Brakeman Malte Schwensenfeier, there he is on the left. Only his second World Cup race. He's got through one without carving his driver's back. Yeah. Next up, Ivo de Bruin of the Netherlands with Dennis Venke. Dennis's 13th two-man start, Ivo's 43rd, more even than Nico Walter.
Wow.
Now last year, 12th place in this race.
Yeah, he had a great race weekend here last year, especially in the foreman. Got to a 6th place in European Championships here, so he knows his track. He likes to drive it. 5:02. And 13th fastest exit speed. Clean line out of curve 1. Good height there in S1. Good height S2. A little bit lower line in S3. And a good-looking exit so far. He's gonna avoid the taps too. Did it in training, does it again on the race. Great speed going into Kreisel. Good job so far from Ivo.
Yeah, the de Bruin family really driving it up here this weekend.
That was a very close call.
Got it back, but that's all carving
That's gonna take
ice.
a lot of speed, yeah.
Wow, that
Looking
was
very
close.
good until that point, and then just robbed him of all the speed.
Yeah.
Just a little bit too long on the first chicane, and then hits the second chicane, and it was on 2 runners for a long time in Kielstein.
Whoa.
That was risky.
Yeah. Dennis shakes his head. That's like when you get off a roller coaster. Yeah, we made it down, but not by much.
Yeah.
Not by much.
And there you can see Dockery, Dillahunty, Thompson helping us out. Long on the first chicane, and that's why he hits and goes on 2 runners into Kielstein. Very low line, and then it's hard to get the exit.
Viesturs, our photographer, will have a great
Whoa.
sequence. He was right above this camera as it almost rolls the wrong way out of the S's.
And then the low line makes him go up at the exit of Kielstein.
Wow.
That was just hanging on by a thread.
All right, 20 sleds down. The race is full. Francesco Friedrich leads a German 1-2-3. Trying to break into the race now is Li Chunjan of China. Kung Hoi Fat Choi, Happy New Year to our Chinese athletes, coaches and viewers. Also, Burns nice. I'm sure no Scots need reminding. Not sure we have any Scots in the field. Don't think we even have any Scottish coaches. What sort of winter sport is this? Let's see what he can produce at the start. 495.
Great job at the start. Good exit there. Was a little bit late into S1. Good height. A little early into S2. A little lower there in S3, but great exit there.
Sneaks in nicely onto the bend away. Avoids the skids.
Nice parallel taps there in the bend away. Not the greatest speed going into Kreisel, but looks like he's in control. Early onto the first chicane. Not a bad line through the chicanes at all.
This could be a top 10 run at the line from Chao Li-jun.
Very good exit there.
How close is he going to
Great
be?
job.
12th
Wow.
place, 49.84.
Good job.
So he is 300s behind Yun Jong Won and 900s ahead of the Ralph Berchins, Alexei Stulnev tie. And Li Chunjan, rather, in his 3rd World Cup race in 2-man.
Good driving from this guy.
There are some great young drivers coming, and that was, I'm afraid, a shocking hit. This brakeman cantering off. But
Looks like he's limping a little bit. It's like a very uneven rhythm in the push of the brakeman.
very odd. And Lee didn't get his knee in either. Saw Kelly Humphries having that problem in the first. He has to sit up again and get his legs around the bungees that go from the top of the cowl to the floor to hold the D-rings.
And cleaning of the eyes before you get the scabbards on to avoid scratches. You want to keep your runners as clean and smooth as possible for the second run.
Lamin Dean next up for Great Britain, with Ryan Letts making his 2nd World Cup start in 2-man. Lamin Dean, his 25th World Cup race. Last week was due to be his 25th start, but didn't get to go. DQ'd because the runners he borrowed from a certain 2nd place tied German slider were not legal. They've been working an awful lot polishing those up. I'm not sure if he's still on those runners, but here we go, 5:07 getaway.
Clean exit there, nice and straight going into S1. A little bit lower line in S1, but good height there. And then let's see how he gets through the exit of S4. Looking clean there, just takes a tap. Nice and straight. Early entrance into Kreisel. A little bit wavy, but control the second wave.
He needs to beat Rio Shinohara to get into the race, and whoa, Ryan Letts will have felt that. Sled getting very sideways. He is in the top 20. Has he got enough speed to hold it to the line, though? 17th fastest speed. It might be. He's in. He is in just behind Ivo de Bruin, and out goes Rio Shinohara. Mattia Variola, our World Cup rookie from Italy, also out of Heat 2. But oh boy, when he got that sideways coming off the Kreisel, I wonder what was going through Ryan Letts' mind there. Same as his driver thing. Oh, we're in trouble here.
Here you can see the first wave dips a little bit too much between the first and the second wave, but controls it then. And it looks like he's on the good line, but then dives off a little bit too sharp and then hits. You want to get the early entrance, but this is like too early of an entrance. Hits, get pushed away, and then it's very hard. Then he's trying everything to avoid being long on that first chicane. And it's a big hit in the second one. Takes him up a lot of speed. Good reactions though. He might as well been on his head.
Yeah. Save that one. Save that one. At the moment he has another run, 3 to go. And Marcus Treichel with that broken left foot was sort of skateboard paddling, standing in the sled last week. He's giving it a bit more beans this week. 5:13.
And that's impressive with a broken foot.
Yeah, he's in a lot of strife, I think, Marcus.
Very good height in S1, good height S2. And it looked like he might have skidded it just a little bit, had good control there. Oh, and then just takes the skid after that first step on the right side.
1:11.7, not bad speed. Let's see what he's got in the labyrinth.
Very long on Kreisel.
Wasn't he?
A little bumpy there.
22nd. Trying to catch an overhaul Lamindine, or at the very least tie with him. 18th fastest speed. This might be close at the line. Is he in? He is not. 50.35. Just not enough.
23rd fastest start, 21st at the line. And we all know that he can do better if he's at full strength again, if his foot heals.
Cassie Bile down there in the top 6 in the women's race after a really entertaining first heat.
Just a little bit sideways there, but controls it directly. And then very long on Kreisel. And that's a lot of driving going on to make sure he's off that first chicane and then hits in the second chicane.
I was rescuing there. He knew there was a crash coming, didn't he? But that, ladies and gentlemen, is Robin Hooding it off the corner. So Marcus Treichel on the sidelines. 2 to go. Dmitry Popov, his 7th World Cup start, has made the cut just once. That was last year in Samoritz. And with Andrei Lvov, new brakeman behind him. We have not seen Lvov in the World Cup. And Popov's chances of making the cut, well, he wasn't strong in training. He was sitting in training. I wondered whether he'd have something at the start. Andrei Lvov got to do it all himself. Yeah, welcome to the School of Hard Knocks to the brakeman.
We saw it already in Eagles. He was sitting in on training. Then he tried to push on the race anyway, and then he hurt himself again. So 5:39.
And that's why Benny Meyer's not here, because again, he was just worried about aggravating the injury after Innsbruck.
Good exit there out of S4.
And the shame of it is Popov can drive.
Yeah, he can certainly drive, but when you have this big start deficit, it's very hard to make the cut. Oh, and just has the same problem as Lamindine there.
And some of that is because he doesn't have the speed in Kreisel to have the height he needs.
He's a little bit slower than he's used to, probably, so it changes the rhythm and it changes your reactions.
Yeah. And the lines don't work and the sled won't go where it needs to get the height at the end. And okay, that was close, 51.06. He's down, he's safe, but he is not in the race. And I think he's known that all week long. The best he can do is not park it.
Well, he has a better chance tomorrow in a 4-man when he has 3 guys pushing him.
Yeah.
And here, coming out of Kreisel, is high there. He dives off and then hits in that first chicane, and that pushes him away. And then comes back up with the pressure, and he's driving himself off that wall, but takes big hits going into Kielstein.
Yeah. Pretty brutal take on then when you're coming in sideways, backwards. Rice mile from Dmitry Popov. Our final sled on ice. 10th World Cup start in 2-man for Drazen Silic. His 3rd this season. He was not expecting to be sliding World Cup this season till Christmas, New Year. And then suddenly, yeah, you're in the World Cup sunshine. Alexander Krasniqi behind him. 7th World Cup start for him. And they are only racing 2-man. There are just the 2 of them on tour.
Oh, has a little trouble getting in. His knee got caught behind something. 5:15.
All right. Let's see what he can produce here.
Nice looking line out of the first curve. Long. He was high, very long on S1.
23rd place last year here in the race.
Controls the exit of S4, but then breaks into a skid before the tap. Ooh, and high line there. Good control of the second wave, though. It's gonna be a little bumpy.
Ah, not bad.
Yeah, a
Recovered
little long
that well.
on Kielstein, but controlled it well.
24th place at the moment, ahead of Dmitry Popov. Is he
Good
going to
exit
catch
there.
Mattia Vadiola at the line? Just about enough. Not quite. 25th. Well, down and safe. 51.13 slide for him. And as ever, they don't have an awful lot, but they do have fun and enthusiasm.
Yeah, we need more guys like him.
Yeah.
He makes the sport so much fun. Here, S2, S3 transition. Very high there in S3, and makes it such an abrupt transition into S4. A little bit long on there, but controls it, and then took the first step, breaks into a little skid, takes the other 2 taps. He's having a lot of fun.
Hey, he's doing the Holcomb high five all the way down the line. Don't leave him hanging, folks. Good stuff from Drazen Silic of Croatia. So at the end of our first heat, we have 3 German sleds in the top 2. A dead heat for silver between Nico Walter and Richard Olsner, but Francesco Friedrich looking for win number 5 on this track, his 4th in a row. And he has a handy lead, 27/100ths of a second. And Van Nieuwenhuis, that's a decent margin.
That's a big lead on this track. If you see how close it is at the middle of the field, then 27/100ths is a big lead.
Well, look at the battle for the medals. A tie for second, and then Justin Cripps 200ths behind them. Brad Hall might not be out of the reckoning. If somebody trips on their shoelaces, he could be in there as well. Oskars Kiebermanis just behind him in 6th. Then Dvorak, new boy Friedrich tied with Dvorak. Votes in there as well, Tentea. All these new drivers firmly in the top 10, ahead of an Olympic medalist like Jung Jong-won. So lots to conjure with. Well, Lamin Dean does make the second heat. The fast 20 go through, and they will be back on ice at 4:30 local, 15:30 GMT. Join us for the second heat. Meanwhile, from Anne Van Nieuwenhuis, me, Martin Haven, the IBSF TV crew, it's our Wiedersehen for the moment. We'll be back in just half an hour with our deciding runs.